let's look again at multiplying polynomials. In this first problem, I have a binomial times a binomial, and we need to make sure that we know how to do this using the distributive property. We've done this before, and I know there are some shortcut methods, but you still have to be able to show that you can do it using the distributive property. So what we will do is we will take this whole binomial and we will distribute it over every term in here. So we'll do 3x minus 2 times this first term, 4x, minus 3x, plus 3x minus 2 times 4. Now, if we use the distributive property again here, we're going to multiply these two terms, and you may need to write out this next step, but if you can see it without doing that, it's okay. 3x times 4x minus, because I multiplied these two, minus 2 times 4x plus 3x times 4 minus 2 times 4. You don't have to draw those arrows, but a lot of people find it easier to do that so they remember what they've already done. So this gives us 12x squared. 3 times 4 is 12, and x times x is x squared, minus 8x plus 12x minus 8. Now, be very careful that you always get your subtraction and negative signs right, because whenever you subtract, that's like adding a negative. So you've got to make sure that you don't mix up your negative signs. Now, if you notice, if I took this line out, I could have gone straight to the line after it. I could have gone straight here. So I could have just done 3x times 4x gives me 12x, and then I could have done this part minus 8x plus 12x minus 8. But a lot of people tend to forget to multiply some of the last ones, so if you need that, write that step out. Now we'll combine our like terms. 12x squared minus 8 plus 12, that's a negative 8 and a 12, that's going to be plus a positive 4x minus 8. That's my answer. Now, this is what we mean when we say use the distributive property to multiply these two binomials. Let's look at another way to multiply these binomials. You may have heard of FOIL, but I'm not going to talk about FOIL yet. I'll talk about FOIL in a minute. Okay, what we're going to do first is we are going to multiply this 3x times everything in here. So I'm going to multiply 3x times 4x. And then I'm going to multiply that 3x times 4. So it's plus 3x times 4. Then I'm going to multiply, let me use another color, this negative 2 by everything. So I can either say minus 2 or plus negative 2. So minus 2 times 4x. You could have said plus a negative 2 times 4x. Minus 2 times 4. Now, I'll do one more step to combine all of the things within each term. So I get 12x squared plus 12x minus 8x minus 8. Now, if you look over here, these two lines in these two problems are just the same, except that one of them has the negative 8x first, and the other one has the 12x first. But they are equivalent expressions. So the next thing we would do, of course, is combine these like terms. 12x squared plus 4x minus 8. And see, I came up with the same answer. This one was using the distributive property. This one, I was taking everything in this first term of the binomial and multiplying it by everything in the last term. I mean, in the two terms of the second binomial. So I take the first term of this first binomial, multiply it by everything here. Then I take the second term, multiply it by everything here. Now, if you have heard of FOIL, FOIL is first, outside, inside, last. Lots of people have heard of this method of multiplying binomials. So what we do is we do the first term of each binomial, which is this. Well, look what I did to start with here. I did the first term of each binomial. So that's the first terms. Now the next thing they say to do is they say to do the outside terms. So I'm going to do this. This one's on the outside, this one's on the outside. See, these are the outsides of what you have written down. Well, look here. That's simply, here, this is what I did first. I did this one first. Then I did the outside terms. So see, I'm doing the very same thing. And then, so let me write this down. First is 3x. Actually, I should do that in red because that's the color I used. 3x times 4x. And then I did the outside terms. That's what I did here. 3x times 4. Now I'm going to do the inside terms, and I'll do those in black. That's the negative 2 times 4x. So this is minus 2 times 4x. Okay, and then my last term, the last thing I will do is last. So the last term in each binomial. That's just about the same color as my purple. Minus 2 times 4. Now, if we combine all of these, 12x squared plus 12x minus 8x minus 8. Now look what I have here. This is the same exact thing that I got right here. And I did the same thing remembering that I was going to multiply this 3x by every term, and then the negative 2 by every term. So this one, I did this one by this term, that's the first. This one by this term, that's the outside. This term by this term, that's the inside. And then the two last terms, this one times this one, that's the last. But the reason I don't like to remember FOIL is, first of all, you have to think of FOIL as going with multiplying binomials, and it doesn't work for anything else. But look at this shortcut method that I showed you and see why it will work with any binomial times a polynomial. It doesn't even have to be a binomial. It could be a trinomial times a trinomial. What I'm doing is I'm taking my first term and I'm multiplying it by everything. I'm sorry, not my first term, my first binomial, but the first term in the binomial. I'm going to multiply that by everything in this one. So I would multiply all of these. Then I would take the next term and I would multiply it by everything in the other polynomial. So I really don't like remembering FOIL. It only works for two binomials. But we need to be able to do trinomials, or like a binomial times a trinomial, or a trinomial times a trinomial. So you're going to need to be able to multiply any polynomials, and this FOIL method just doesn't work. If you think about it this way instead of remembering FOIL, think about I'm going to multiply this times everything in here, and then this times everything in here. It will help you remember it, and you'll be able to do all kinds of problems.